So let's start. Introduction to JavaScript. This is the first programming language we are learning, and it allows us to build interactive web pages. So before now, when you get to a website, all you can do is to read the content of that web page. So let's say this is our web page. We've been creating pages like this or this one, and all you can do is just to read the content of the web page without having the ability to relate to the page. The page does not know what you are doing. The page is not intelligent enough to know what you are doing. All it just does is, oh, come here, read me and go. You can't interact with the web page. JavaScript allows us to do that. For instance, I can choose to do a little calculation on this page. What is 3 plus 5? Like this time around, what interactive web page allows you to do is that it's able to give you results based on your input. You know, our present web page, or this particular page, will show the same thing to everybody. But interactive web page is as though it is interacting with you. It is showing you things based on what you are doing on that page at that moment. You are not just going there to read. You are going there to relate with it. Look at it. Imagine there is a speaker out there, and some things have been recorded, and they are just playing the recorded thing. When you get there, it will just talk and talk and talk. In fact, I think that even reminds me, something happened recently. Someone went to Twitter and reported someone else to Walmart, the Walmart supermarket. Reported that someone is stealing things on Walmart. Unfortunately, the Walmart bots, instead of it to take it off, but because it's a bot anyway, it's not human. Because it's a bot, it's just telling you, thank you for contacting us, something like that. Thank you for contacting us. Reach us via DM. If you have any help, reach us via DM. The person reported the person again. This person is stealing from you. Take action. The bot responded again. Thank you for contacting us. Reach out to us via DM if you need any help. Again, he quoted it. The same thing. It's repeating the same thing. Like if 1 million persons should quote that bot, it will give the same response. But a responsive web page on the other hand, an interactive web page on the other hand, or an interactive page, would have given a response based on the input. It would have given a reply based on what the person is saying, meaning it's going to interact with that particular person. Instead of doing the same thing to everybody, it will do things to you based on your request. That is an interactive web page, and that is why we are learning JavaScript. To make our page interactive, that's why you can take your calculator and do some calculation. If I say 3 plus 2, it will give me 5. If another person comes tomorrow and says 7 times 8, it will give the person 56. That's because that is intelligent enough to think, like to do these things, to give you a response based on your input. That's what we want to do. We want our page to be able to relate with our users, instead of it just being a dormant page where people just come and stare on the page and read and go. No, we want to interact with the page. So that is why we are learning JavaScript. And so it's like the brain of our application, of our web page. We want it to be, JavaScript is the brain of the front end. At the front end, it is the brain. So it's the one thinking for your page. So having discussed that, let's write our first set of JavaScript codes. This page is, the name of this file, the extension of this page is .html. The name of this file is index.html. So the extension is .html. So it means that naturally, the browser expects that everything on this page should be HTML. But we want to write JavaScript codes. So what you're going to do is, first thing first, you open the script tag. So all your JavaScript codes will be within this script tag. All your JavaScript code will be within the script tag. Now, unlike HTML, JavaScript is not primarily meant to display things. What does that mean? If I come here and I say for, if I get to the browser, I'll see the for. Now that's because the prime work of HTML is to present things to us, is to display. But if I come to JavaScript and I put 8, well, if I get to the browser, I won't see the 8. I won't. That's because the primary work of JavaScript is not to display, it's not to present things. The primary work of JavaScript is to think, is to serve as the brain. So it's only whenever you are ready to display something, you need to now tell it, because most of the codes in JavaScript will not be to display things. In fact, most of the time you won't be displaying things. Instead, it will be to perform logic, to do a lot of operations. You only display only little things. So when you are ready to display things, you need to explicitly tell JavaScript that, see, JavaScript, display this thing for me. Unlike HTML that displays everything by default, JavaScript on the other hand does not. What it does is it's like the brain. It thinks and all of that, and it hardly talks. So when you are ready to make it talk, you have to tell JavaScript, say this thing out. So we are going to be using some things we call keywords and functions and inbuilt functions. For now, I'll be using these two interchangeably. They are not the same. Yes, they aren't. But for now, I'll be using them as though they are the same. At the right time, I will explain the difference to us. But then, I'll be using them together. Keywords and inbuilt functions, what they do is, the relationship, the similarity between them is that these two, when JavaScript sees any of this, whether it's a keyword or it's an inbuilt function, it automatically knows what to do. When JavaScript sees any keyword, instantly it knows what to do. And you need to know some of these keywords. You need to, at least for a start, you need to know some. Not all of them, and in fact, well, maybe. I don't think you can know all the keywords and inbuilt functions. Well, maybe. But then, there are a lot of them. I'll just know a few of them, and we're going to look at those few, or some of them now. Know a few of them and start with that. As time goes on, as you work, you get used to you understand and know some of the rest. So the first thing is, I want to display this 8 on the screen. I want it to be displayed on the screen. So the first inbuilt function, remember I said I'll be using both inbuilt function and keyword. I'll be using them together. So the first inbuilt function we'll be looking at is alert. Remember I said when JavaScript says these inbuilt functions, it automatically knows what to do. This alert is used to tell JavaScript that you want to display something and it should display it for you. So I'll say, what do I want to alert? I want to alert 8. So when you say alert 8, you are telling JavaScript, please help me to display this 8. Then what's the answer of this semicolon? Well, that is very lenient. You may or you may not terminate your statement with semicolon, but it's a good practice. After writing a statement, to put semicolon to terminate it, to say that, oh, I'm done with that part. Then you go to the next one. So alert 8. When you get to the browser now, let me go and refresh the page. Can you see these alerts? This is how alert does. It gives you a dialog box. Alert gives you a dialog box. Next, I can say alert 20. Then when I get to the page, I'll see 20. Next, I can say alert 75. Then when I get to the page, I'll see 75. Now you might be saying that, why are we only using numbers? Like, why not do something like this? Alert maybe hello. Now somehow it's not working. It's not working. But for now, we start with numbers. As time goes on, we move to text. But let's start with numbers alone. You understand why this is not working. But for a start, let's consider numbers alone. So alert is giving us, is displaying a number, or for now, we say we use alert to display a number. Next, remember I said the primary work of JavaScript is to serve as the brain of your page. So it can think for you. What does that mean? If I say alert 4 times 5, let me just place this like this. 4 times 5, it will give you 20 because it can think for you. So that's what it's doing. It's processing it for us. JavaScript helps you to process things. So If you not the same thing, if you do the same thing in HTML, well, you will just have your 4 times 5 back. That makes it different. HTML just to display something, while JavaScript is to serve as the brain of your page. Let's go. Are we still following?
Yes, we are following.
Are we tired?
Yes.
Yes. No, we are following.
Okay. So JavaScript helps your brain to think. Helps your page to think. It helps your page to think. So I like it can do multiplication. It can do subtraction. 4 minus 5, that will give you minus 1. 4 divided by 5, 0.8 now. Okay, yes. Then 4 plus 5, 9. So JavaScript is doing all these things for you. Next, it seems that our HTML and our JavaScript are not working together. They seem to be independent of each other. Normally, they are meant to work together, but so far, it's as though this JavaScript is working independently of our HTML. So let's make them work together. So what we're going to do is I'll create maybe a div. I can even create a p tag. I can just get any tag. So p tag, I'll give it an ID. So I want to ask us a question. What is the difference between an ID and a class? We did that in HTML. And Mr. Blessing also explained to us in CSS. What is the difference between an ID and a class?
Mojisola Makinde, you are asked this question. Mr. Kunle Lawal, sir.
Please, can you come again with the question?
Yes, so what's the difference between an ID and a class?
Hello, sir.
You said why is what?
What is the difference between ID and a class? ID and class. What is the difference between them?
ID and the class.
Yes.
ID is used to identify, and the class is used to group.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So an ID is used to identify an item, like a specific item, while a class is used to group multiple items together. So for now, I'll be using an ID. For most of the things we'll be doing, we'll be using an ID. Not that you can't use class, but for now it won't work. So let's stick with ID for now. As time goes on, we'll be able to use classes. So I'll give this an ID of, I can give it anything. I can call it my paragraph or something, or power. Just give it an ID. Remember, two items cannot share the same ID. An ID is meant, or is specifically meant for an item. So I'm giving this an ID called power. You can give it any ID of your choice. I now want to use JavaScript to place a number inside this power. Like, you can for now we are only dealing with numbers. As time goes on, we deal with text. So come to JavaScript and say, what's the ID? Power. Now say set the inner text. Power.inner text, set it to 30. Again, you are calling on the ID. ID specifically goes to that container, and it will help you to set the inner text to 30. This equals to is the one that we use to place an item inside a container in JavaScript. In HTML, if you want to place an item inside a container, you put it here. But in JavaScript, to place an item in the container, you use equal to insert it. What you are saying is, insert whatever is at the right hand side into the left hand side. That's how equal to works. Whatever is at the right hand side of the equal to will be inserted into whatever is at the left hand side. So you are saying that the ID, which is power, dot inner text equals to 30. So when we get to the browser, you will see 30 inside this p tag. Let's go to the browser and see. So we have this here. How are we sure that it's inside the p tag? I will style the p tag so that p background color, let's say red, and the text color, let's say white. So I'm styling this p tag specifically so that I'll be sure that this is inside it. So as you can see, this 30 is white, so it's inside that p tag. Let's proceed. Another thing is I will create a div now. I'll give it an ID. I'll call it maybe container. I will use JavaScript to place a number inside it. So I can say container dot inner text. This inner text is very important. Note the spelling of the inner text. This capital letter T is very, very important. So I can say unjoined. So when you get to the browser, if you place this unjoined inside this div, inside stack is there already. Let's play with it again. I can have an h1 tag. I can give it an ID. I can call it heading or my heading. So I can say heading dot inner text equals to, let's say, 35. When I get to the browser, I will see 35 inside the h1. So you can see it's there like this. So let's proceed. I can come here and create another tag, which is the span anything. Let me use the superscript. I can give it an ID. I can give it an ID, my super. Then I'll say my super dot inner text equals to let's say 15 or something. When I go to the browser, you see it is small. It is actually a superscript. This is a superscript. How do I know? If I put any value before this superscript, let's say hello, before it, you can say it is hello superscript 15. Any question on that?
No question. That's understood.
Okay. So let's now do something. Create an input. Give it an ID. Give it an ID. I can call it IMP. Then use JavaScript to place a number inside it. That is equals to 40. So IMP dot inner text equals to 40. Now, this is our input. This is our input. We are not seeing 40 there, right?
No, we are not.
It's
No.
not displaying 40. Now, and it seems to, at least so far, everything has been working fine until we introduced input. So why is it not putting this 40 inside? The ID is correct. The ID is IMP, and just like before, everything we did it just the way we did others, but this is not working. Now that brings us to what I call editable containers and uneditable containers. So let's discuss this too. Editable containers and uneditable containers. And to understand this too, I will comment out everything on the page so that we can focus on this editable and uneditable. Editable containers are containers that users can, like by default, users can change whatever is inside them. While uneditable containers are containers that by default users cannot change whatever is inside them. It may look somehow, but let's look at this. Let's say I have h1 and I have my heading. So let's go to the browser and see. Can the user change this my heading? user visiting your page change this my heading?
No. No.
No. So this is uneditable container, meaning H1 is an uneditable container because users of your page cannot change what is inside this place. They can only read it, they can't change it. Let's look at another uneditable container. P tag. Hello. When the user visits your page, the user can only read, the user cannot change it. So this is it means a p tag is an uneditable container. Let's look at an input. Then if you put a value there, let's say Taiwo or something, users of the page can change what is inside your input. So this is an editable container. An input is an editable container because your users can change it. Then we have text area. Hello world. A text area is another editable container because users can change what is inside it. A select tag. So this is a select tag. A select tag is another example of editable container because users can change what is inside that. So any container that allows users to change the content is editable container. Why containers that don't allow users to do this is known as uneditable containers. Now, you use inner text for the uneditable containers. That is why this inner text works very well with the p tag, with the heading, with the div and all of that because they are all uneditable containers. But when you are dealing with editable containers, you use value. So an input is an example of editable containers. So instead of using inner text, you use value. So if you want to change the content, if you want to use JavaScript to change what is inside an editable container, you use value. So what you're going to do is instead of saying dot inner text, it becomes dot value. So JavaScript will now place 40 inside this input. Do you get it? So you have this 40 here. Any question? Same with text area. So I can give it an ID. ID my text. So I can say my text dot value equals to, let's say, 55. So this. Any question? So I hope you understand the explanation.
No question. Yeah,
Okay.
understood.
So this part that I want to explain may look somehow, but that's where we are landing off today. This, you see this text area. If you use inner text with it, it will also work. But please use value. It will also work. It's a special kind of content. It will work both with text area and with value. Both with inner text areas like this. They work with both inner text and value, but please use value. That's one. Two is this. Remember I said editable containers are containers that by default you can change what is inside them. What does that mean? Let's look at this instance. This input has been disabled, meaning that, let me comment out this, meaning that if I get to the browser, I can't change what is inside this input, but it is still an editable container. It is still editable container because the default property of an input is to be editable. Do we get it? The
Yes.
default behavior of
Yes.
an input is to be editable. So if I still want to place something inside it, I will still use value. I hope you understand.
Yes, it's
So
understood.
that's default behavior of an input. That's one. Two is this. Look at the paragraph. And let's say hello world. Normally, a user cannot change what is inside a paragraph, like by default. Let me remove this. By default, a user cannot change what is inside a paragraph. But maybe you decide to set it to something like this. So this allows you, this attribute allows you to edit it. So meaning that this paragraph is now editable. But the fact that the default behavior of a paragraph is for it to be uneditable. If you still want to change what is inside this thing, you will still use inner text, not value. The fact that it's not editable does not mean it is now under editable containers. Do we get the explanation now? So the default
Yes, but you can come again.
Sir?
You may come again.
Okay. So
Make it clear.
the default behavior of that container tells us whether it is under editable or uneditable. Normally, a paragraph is not editable. It is not.
Yeah.
But this thing, this property, allows us to edit a paragraph. As you can see, I can edit what is inside this place now. But that doesn't mean that I will now come here. Let me give it an ID. That doesn't mean if I want to use JavaScript to change what is inside this, I will now come here and say para.value. No.
Right. Yeah.
It will still be dot inner text, because the default behavior of a paragraph is for it to be uneditable. Do we get it?
That's understood. Yeah.
So that's where we are landing off today. That's where we are landing off today. So please go to the two. I understand that we have 2 videos and run that we want to watch. I know that after this class, you still have to go back to this and rewatch it. And our next class is on Monday. It's here already. Please, I won't give us any assignment today. Go to the videos if you want to. Go to the videos before the next class and understand this very well. The first section is just for us to summarize everything we did in our first level, but today's class starts with this video, with this one. So I explained editable and uneditable containers. Thank you very much. Read chapter 2 for the next class. Read chapter 2 of that textbook, variable declaration. Please read it. I won't give us an assignment, but you have an assignment in the next class. Have a lovely night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo. Happy Lord.
Thank you.